The man's name was Thomas, a proud and stubborn figure who had once believed his family's imperfections were a reflection of his own failures. 20 years ago, after a night filled with bitter arguments and harsh words, Thomas made a decision that would forever alter the lives of those he claimed to love. In a cold and unforgiving moment, he threw out his wife, Margaret, and their 3 young daughters, labeling them a disgrace and unworthy of his name. The words tore through the walls of their home and into the hearts of his family, shattering their sense of security and love. Margaret was left to pick up the pieces of her broken family alone. She was devastated but resolute. Raising triplets by herself in a small town was no easy feat, especially under the heavy burden of shame and loneliness that Thomas's rejection cast over them. Despite the hardship, Margaret became the unwavering pillar her daughters needed. She worked multiple jobs, sacrificed her own dreams, and shielded her children from the harsh realities as best she could. The triplets, Emma, Lily, and Grace, were only toddlers when their father left. They grew up with a silent void where a father's love should have been, but they never let that void define them. As they grew older, the girls leaned on each other, their sisterly bond growing stronger with every challenge they faced. They learned early on that family was not about blood alone, but about the love, support, and resilience they shared. School was tough, especially with the whispers and sideways glances from other children and their parents. The girls faced judgment and exclusion, yet they persevered, determined to prove their worth beyond their father's cruel words. Emma, the eldest, was fiercely protective, often standing up for her sisters in moments of bullying and doubt. Lily was the dreamer, with a passion for art and writing, pouring her feelings onto pages and canvases. Grace, the youngest, was the peacemaker, always seeking harmony in the chaos that surrounded their lives. Margaret's sacrifices began to bear fruit. The girls excelled in school, earned scholarships, and began carving paths for themselves that their father never could have imagined. Yet, despite their success, the wound left by Thomas's rejection remained a silent ache, a question of why and what could have been. Meanwhile, Thomas's life unfolded differently. Alone in his large but empty house, he wrestled with loneliness and regret. The pride that had once fortified him now isolated him, and the echoes of his harsh words haunted his nights. Attempts to move on felt hollow without the laughter and love of the family he abandoned. Though he never admitted it aloud, the pain of losing them was a burden he carried in silence. 20 years later, fate intervened in a way no one expected. It was at a community event, a celebration of local talent and achievement, that Thomas encountered his daughters. The moment was charged with years of unspoken emotion. Emma, Lily, and Grace had blossomed into confident, accomplished women, each reflecting the strength and grace their mother had instilled in them. The reunion was painful yet healing. Tears flowed freely as stories were exchanged, stories of loss, perseverance, forgiveness, and hope. Thomas's remorse was palpable, and though his daughters carried scars, they also carried the power of forgiveness. It was not easy, but the family found a new beginning in that moment, proving that even the deepest wounds can begin to heal with love and understanding. Asterisk. The days following their unexpected reunion were filled with a whirlwind of emotions for Thomas and his daughters. Thomas, once so distant and cold, now found himself grappling with a mix of guilt, hope, and the desire to make amends. Emma, Lily, and Grace each faced their own internal struggles, a complex blend of love, resentment, and the cautious optimism that maybe, just maybe, their father could become a part of their lives again. Emma, the eldest, took the lead in bridging the gap. She remembered all the nights her mother had stayed awake, worrying about her daughter's future, and now, seeing her father broken and remorseful stirred something deep within her. But she was also protective. She wouldn't let Thomas back in without earning his trust. Her strong will, which had helped her stand tall through years of hardship, now steeled her to face the father who had abandoned them. Lily the dreamer was less guarded but equally cautious. She had spent years channeling her feelings into art and poetry, often depicting the pain of abandonment and the hope for reconciliation. Meeting her father again inspired her to paint in new colors, hues of forgiveness and healing. Yet, she knew the road ahead was complicated. Trust was fragile and would need time to grow. Grace, the youngest, surprised everyone with her openness. Known as the peacemaker, she wanted to believe in family unity, and she longed to see her parents and sisters heal together. Her gentle nature often served as the glue that held the sisters together, and now it became a beacon guiding them through the complicated journey of forgiveness. For Thomas, the reunion was the beginning of a painful reckoning. He had spent years justifying his actions, blaming circumstances and his own fears. But looking at his daughters, not as broken children but as strong, successful women, he realized how deeply he had failed them. He wanted to rewrite the past, but he understood that time could never be undone. Instead, he focused on the present and future, hoping to rebuild the relationships he had shattered. Margaret, their mother, watched the reunion with mixed emotions. The years of pain and sacrifice had left their mark on her, but seeing her daughters and their father face each other was a moment she never thought would come. She had raised her girls to be resilient, to carry themselves with dignity despite the hardships. Now she hoped her family could find peace and perhaps a new beginning. Slowly, Thomas began to attend family dinners and events. The conversations were tentative at first, filled with silences and awkward pauses. But with each passing day, the walls began to crumble. Stories were shared, laughter returned, and memories, both joyful and painful, were revisited. The daughters, despite their scars, realized that forgiveness was not about forgetting, but about freeing themselves from the chains of the past. They saw their father not as a perfect man, but as a flawed human capable of change. And in that, they found a chance for healing. This reunion became a story shared among friends and neighbors, a testament to the power of forgiveness and the enduring bond of family. The man who once rejected his wife and daughters was now a part of their lives again, not as the man he had been, but as the man he was becoming. As weeks turned into months, the fragile threads of their relationship began to strengthen. Thomas showed up more consistently, attending school plays, birthday parties, and quiet Sunday dinners. Each interaction was a test of patience and willingness to forgive, but all involved embraced the challenge. Emma, Lily, and Grace found themselves cautiously letting go of old wounds, discovering new reasons to hope. One evening, as the family gathered around the fireplace, Margaret shared stories from their past, not the painful parts, but memories of laughter and love that had once filled their home. It was a reminder that family was never truly lost, only waiting to be rediscovered. Thomas took responsibility for his mistakes openly. "I was wrong to leave," he said quietly. "I let my pride blind me from what mattered most, you girls. Your mother, I'm sorry." Tears welled in the eyes of his daughters, not just from the apology, but from the courage it took to say those words. It was a turning point. The triplets, now adults with their own lives and dreams, began to invite him into their worlds. Emma introducing him to her children, Lily sharing her art shows, and Grace bringing him to volunteer events she organized. Slowly, he became more than a shadow from their past. He became part of their present. Yet, forgiveness did not erase all the scars. There were moments of tension and pain, reminders of the years lost and words unspoken. But the family's commitment to healing and honesty made those moments part of the journey rather than the end in time. The story of this fractured family's reunion inspired others in their community. It showed that no matter how deep the wounds, love and forgiveness could mend even the most broken hearts. And for Thomas, it was a second chance, a chance to be the father and husband he had failed to be. and a chance for the family to write a new chapter filled with hope and love.